Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told his military to keep on fighting with, quote, full force amid growing worries of a ground invasion of Lebanon. He also dismissed reports of a possible ceasefire with Hezbollah after the US and its allies on Wednesday called for a 21-day ceasefire along the Israel-Lebanon border. Mr. Netanyahu's office says he has not responded to those calls. The Israeli leader has left for New York to address the UN General Assembly on Friday. Lebanese and Palestinian officials are set to speak at the assembly later today to discuss the ongoing conflicts. On Wednesday, Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati addressed the UN Security Council, urging action to de-escalate the conflict, which is threatening to spark a wider war. He also welcomed calls for a truce, but noted that it can only be implemented if Israel is committed to enforcing international resolutions. Qatar says there is no formal mediation yet for a Lebanon ceasefire. Qatar, which has been a mediator for truce talks for Gaza, added that there is no link between negotiations for a truce in Gaza and the push for an Israeli-Hezbollah ceasefire. And more, let's bring in our correspondent Sarah Coates joining us from Tel Aviv and Nick Harper reporting live from Washington, D.C. Let's start with you first, Nick. Apart from the ceasefire in Lebanon being US and its allies backed, and it being 21 days, what more do we know about this proposal for peace, a 21-day peace in Lebanon?
Well, this is a significant proposal, really significant for two main reasons. First of all, this comes from 12 allies, including the US, the EU, Japan, Australia and Canada. And bear in mind that these are all countries that up until now have staunchly backed Israel. But here they are calling for a 21-day immediate ceasefire. They say that this needs to come into effect along the Israel-Lebanon blue line. That's the borderline that marks the two countries apart. They say that this would be a temporary ceasefire. And importantly, they're saying that during those 21 days, the time should be used to negotiate a longer diplomatic solution. The statement that was put out saying that this would provide space for diplomacy towards the conclusion of a diplomatic settlement. They're also saying that they should use this time to really reignite ceasefire talks that have been taking place and have stalled between Israel and Hamas. And for the second reason this is significant, it's a very strongly worded statement. The 12 allies calling the hostilities intolerable, saying that they present an unacceptable risk of a broader regional escalation and warning that that is in nobody's interest. It's not in the interest of Israel, also not in the Israel of Lebanon. Now, here in the United States, one US official has called this statement a breakthrough. Now, that might be somewhat over-egging it. There is no sign at this stage that Israel is ready to accept this proposal. But I think these allies really trying to create momentum around the announcement, trying to prevent that escalation and also trying to prevent that possible ground invasion by Israel.
Oh, thanks. Nick Harper reporting live from Washington, D.C. Sarah, we just heard from Nick there. He said no sign as yet of any kind of acceptance from Israeli officials for this ceasefire in Lebanon. Mr. Netanyahu's office has said he has not responded. Other ministers have also been vocal in their opposition.
They really have, Sue, a lot of opposition to this here in Israel, especially among Netanyahu's base. These people really do think that this military operation is a major success in really denigrating Hezbollah's capabilities to fire rockets, fire missiles into Israel. So certainly a lot of support for this current campaign. We've heard from the Foreign Minister, Israel Katz. He said, there will be no ceasefire in the north. We will continue to fight against the terrorist organisation Hezbollah with all our might until victory and until the safe return of these northern residents to their homes. Now, unsurprisingly, the Finance Minister, Bezalel Smotrich, he posted on X just a couple of hours ago that the campaign in the north should end in one scenario, and that is crushing Hezbollah. A lot of support also from the commander of the northern municipality, this large northern region that is largely evacuated, also believing that this campaign should go on. And Also, the opposition leader, Yair Lapid, he is, let's say, thinking that this ceasefire should go ahead, but only for 7 days, saying that this should not allow Hezbollah to regroup. But then on the other hand, you've got the family members of these hostages still being held in the Gaza Strip, and they are urging the Prime Minister to agree to this ceasefire deal or this ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah, but really not much optimism on the ground.
Sarah, back on the ground in Lebanon, just minutes ago, reports of precision raids or precision Israeli strikes in Beirut itself. What's the larger situation like in terms of both Israel and Hezbollah continuing to trade fire?
That's right. The IDF has actually come out now to say that it has carried out yet another targeted strike. Southern suburbs of Beirut, we've seen a number of these over the past few days, the past few weeks, with the Israeli military targeting these Hezbollah commanders. Still no word on who they were targeting this time, if this was actually successful. But they have been continuing to trade blows over the past 24 hours. The Israeli military says that it's hit more than 75 targets in the south of the country, also in the east of the country, the Bekaa Valley, saying that this is Hezbollah infrastructure, weapons, storage facilities and rocket launchers, also hitting what it is calling Hezbollah infrastructure on the Lebanon-Syria border. Apparently, this was infrastructure there for the transfer of weapons from Syria into Lebanon for Hezbollah. So certainly this situation on the ground is showing really no signs of letting up. And from what we've been hearing from Israeli officials, they are preparing for a ground operation. But this is something that, of course, that would be catastrophic for the region and would have mass casualties on both sides of the border, Wesu.
Oh, thanks. And we come up to that with you. Sarah Coates reporting live to us there from Tel Aviv.